In 1862, Billy Barker discovered gold in the deep mountains of central British Columbia. The word spread as fast as they could back in the days, and within a very short time, a settlement was established around the place where Billy struck gold. In the next decade or so, thousands upon thousands of men came to this place in pursuit of the dreams through searching for gold. In honor of the man whose life story inspired so many, the people decided to give a name to the new home. They called it Barkerville.
Today, Barkerville is a historic park where you need to pay admission in order to get in. Doesn't matter if you claim your great-great-uncle's house is in there. Heck, you might actually meet your great-great-uncle there, as there are full-time employees dressing up and playing residents from the age when Barkerville was a booming gold rush town. Hey everyone, so I just got into Barkerville. This is basically a historic heritage town that was kept by the government and set up as a park for educational purposes. This is going to be a great place for especially history buffs. And please note that because we're still in the middle of the global event, so inside this park, you must bring a mask in order to get into the buildings. Anyways, we'll start exploring. We'll see you there. Like mentioned in the previous episode, there are businesses set up in the 19th century style you can visit inside Barkerville Park. You also get to enter some of the houses to see how people live their lives during the Fraser River Gold Rush. Just climbing the stair inside the house, one person at a time. Somebody's attic. Not only that, those 19th century characters you see around the park, like your great-great-uncle, are also available for a chat. Hello, how are you?
Good.
So what are you making today?
I got an S-hook I'm making and a drink holder and then a flint striker also in the fire.
A drink holder, nice.
Shape here.
Here we go.
White. Yeah. Don't get too tight there. So I'll give it one more heat and then I'll bring this in a little bit more.
Yeah.
One more heat. And then the drink holder just needs a point on it.
Why aren't you making horseshoes?
Because that's what farriers do. I'm not a farrier, I'm a blacksmith.
Oh.
Okay, first thing first. You notice a wooden Gothic-looking building. This is St. Saviour's Anglican Church, one of the oldest, original, and continuously used buildings inside the historic park. Like the blacksmith at the blacksmith shop, I was greeted by the minister of the church, who also dressed in 19th century clothing.
He to rescue me from danger, interposed his precious blood. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thanks. The minister was very informative. I learned that the church was built in 1870, and the heating system inside was the original cast iron from back then. She told me that in real life, she just got ordained as a priest. Wow. Yeah, so I just came out of the church. The church lady, she dressed up in the 1800s style clothing, and she actually called Vancouver Hastings Mills. Well, I guess back in the days, In order for the next generation to learn about Hastings Mills, where Sayu Rinpoche comes from, you gotta send your kids to the school next to the church. Actually, that's the map of the British Empire. Hey, teachers, leave the kids alone. Main Street Barkerville is just like any main street elsewhere. Lots of urban legends and lots to discover. To enter the boarding house, and boarding house, as you know, is like a hostel for the visitors or loggers or gold diggers back in the days. Really pleased about the price. It's only $12 a week, and a meal costs only $1.50. Yeah, so I don't remember when was the last time the cost to see a dentist is this low. Hey, you have to remember, back in the days, you stay a week at a hotel, $12. You get a meal, that's $1.50. You see a dentist, that's $5. That means, so $5 was the equivalent of 3 meals. And let's see today, a meal costs about $20. So 3 times that is about $60. I don't think you can see a dentist for $60 nowadays. Yeah, there is even a watchmaker and jeweler here. And of course, it's open for business. Barkerville is a place where you see scenes of 19th century and 21st century cross the road. Even the characters you see there seem to have a life, other than just being there to entertaining tourists. I mean, if the tourist crowd gathers in, these characters eventually will have no choice but to go back to work.
So one day, every year,
called Barton Marsh. So there's a population that, especially in the 1860s, only lives here for half the year, maybe 5 months. We call that our mining season. That's all we get.
Hey, how are you?
Good day.
How are you?
Really good, thank you. Where are you from?
From Lower Mainland.
Hey.
May look scary, but I assure you these are not real animal flesh. At the end of the main street, you'll see a separate area with distinct features. This is Barkerville's Chinatown. During the peak, Chinese miners accounted for over half of the total population in Barkerville. They had their own shops and operated their own schools. There is a 2-story museum that offers excellent information on the Chinese community that once lived in Barkerville. You'll also find artifacts from that era as well. On the second floor, you see how a rich Chinese family's home looked like back when some of them made a fortune through various ventures in Barkerville. Yeah, I seriously feel like I'm walking back in time. This was once the home of the Chinese family here in Barkerville.
Wait, RBC actually used to hand out free calendars back then as well?
And believe it or not, there's actually a Chinese restaurant inside Barkerville as well.
I guess back in the days, you gotta have your own supply of veggies for making Chinese food. The hill adjacent to the laundry shop was actually a terrace farm, except it has now completely reverted back to the natural state.
It's kind of funny that this place reminded me of Dawson City in Yukon. You can tell that Dawson is, I guess, more authentic in a way that, it has a wooden boardwalk. A road in Dawson, a real city where people live, is actually worse, than the preserved historic park. If you haven't checked our Dawson and our Yukon adventures, I'm gonna leave the link to the Yukon adventures in the description box. Make sure to check it out.
Barkerville's Chinatown marks the edge of the historic town. If you follow this path for another 30-minute walk, you'll reach the old courthouse, kinda in the middle of nowhere. Behind Chinatown, you'll reach Barkerville's industrial area.
Yeah, can you believe it? Back in the days, Barkerville had its own electricity generator, and they imported all the way from England.
In this area, you get to see all the equipment people used back in the days. From vehicles to some gauges or tanks, you might easily recognize from some relatively modern factories. Of course, one of the massive structures will certainly catch your eyes, and it was used to shake out gold.
Yeah, so let me quickly explain how gold digging in this area works. So you use a high pressure gun and you just wash off the rocks on the cliff, and then it's gonna fall down, of course with water, to the little water slot back there, and then eventually it's gonna come all the way down, and people will do the traditional way of gold washing, I guess, and then eventually you get gold.
In front of the park's gift shop, you can actually learn how to do gold panning with staff members of the park.
And there's also a little stairs that leads to higher point, so hopefully you can catch a glimpse of Barkerville from above.
And you know what? The view from the above ain't bad at all. It gives you a different feeling about Barkerville. Now this town looks like it came straight out of an old photograph. All of a sudden, the magic of time travel hit me really hard. I was in awe of what I saw. At that time, I totally forgot that this was an admission-paying tourist attraction. As I headed back towards the entrance of the Barkerville Historic Park, I passed by hunter lodges and lodges for you and I.
Okay, like the restaurants and all the places in Barkerville, you can actually reserve and stay at this bed and breakfast inside the park. Again, very ironic. The real hotel in a real town that the owner is seeking to sell, whereas in a fake town like Barkerville, the accommodation industry flourishes. And it was also the first time I witnessed a horse smelling at its own fart. Well, that's sad and pathetic, isn't it? And speaking of horse crap, you really have to be careful around here. Yeah, that's it for our tour of Barkerville. Personally, I think it's well worth it, especially if you're interested in the history of Gold Rush and history of British Columbia. This place is a must visit. Yeah, but personally, I think the story of Dawson City is way more dramatic.
Maybe that's because you don't get to drink whiskey with a real human toe in it. Despite Barkerville being the official terminus of the historic Cariboo Road, our adventure hasn't ended yet. In the next episode, we'll travel to places we didn't get to see on our way in. Plus, we will detour to Kamloops to learn about a tragic chapter of modern Canadian history. Stay tuned.
The bodies of 215 children were found near the site of this building right here.